All right, the local hour here on the Chase Thomas podcast continues on after a week away with a wedding, with a broken foot, with this, that, and the other here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Garrett Chapman of 99 The Game, Dopey Millennials, all that good stuff is here to walk through the Atlanta Falcons, who I caught up on both times. I haven't watched a game live yet. Maybe one day this season I'll watch a Falcons game live, but I keep this past week with the Rams, and I was, part of me was like, do I just move on with my day? Like, do I just, is this just over? Is this just a really bad one? And then of course the Falcons come all the way back just to come up aggressively short. And this is an aggressively hurtful team this year.
Oh, yeah.
And look, it doesn't make it much better that like Matt Ryan is having the season from hell and just really, really bad thus far in Indianapolis. I think they're like 31st in DVOA to this point.
Bad.
Titans are 32nd. I mean, Falcons are 0-2, and this is one of the more absurd 0-2 starts I've ever seen the Falcons and really any NFL team have. Like, through 2 weeks, Garrett Chapman, how are you feeling about the Falcons?
Pretty much how I thought I was going to feel. I mean, I expected...
Do you really feel the same as what you thought coming into the year?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, because I was never going to judge this team by the amount of wins it had. I was going to judge this team by what I saw on the field and what they put on tape. And the ironic thing is, this team is super close to being 2-0. Like, that's a weird thing that I did not expect would be the case. Maybe it's because the New Orleans Saints are a bit of fool's gold. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe the same thing about the Rams. I'm not really all that high on the Rams just in general, but that's a different conversation for a different time. But the point is, it's like, that's the difference between being a winning football team in the NFL and not being a winning football team in the NFL. It's measured, it's a distance of that much, you know? And I think if one or two plays goes your way in that Rams game in that fourth quarter, one more play, like say Marcus Mariota makes the proper read and he throws to Drake London, the back right side of the end zone, we're looking at a 1-1 team. If we look at a team that doesn't completely collapse and not everything goes wrong in that fourth quarter against the Saints, you're looking at a 2-0 team. That's how close this team is. So, no, I'm not saying that this team is better or worse than I expected. They're, as far as the win-loss record is concerned, they're exactly what I thought they'd be. The offensive line, though, has been a bit of a pleasant surprise. It's kind of a weird way to say that. I think that has a little bit to do with Marcus Mariota being a little bit more mobile in the pocket and being able to move a bit more than Matt Ryan was. And, I mean, hell, we've seen that in Indianapolis with Matt Ryan just falling over. But look, I think this team is fine. Like they're in good shape. I think they could go get a win this weekend up in Seattle. But I've taken a couple positives, mainly Drake London and the progression of this offensive line. I'm not ready to panic about what we're seeing with the lack of targets for Kyle Pitts. I just blanked on his name for a split second. I have so many names floating through my head. I'm jumping from college football to high school football to everything else.
It's okay.
Excuse me. No, but I'm not freaking out over that yet because you have an all-rookie sensation in Drake London who's taken the sport by storm, playing really good football.
The Kyle Pitts stuff is weird. He has not graded well. I have this up in front of me. He is, where did it just go? 42nd of 50 among qualifying tight ends to this point. And Arthur Smith got really testy about the Kyle Smith targets and talking about the fantasy football stuff, and it's not fantasy football. Okay. Arthur Smith, I still think he's probably a good coach. I think Drake London being awesome right out of the gate, that's good. That's a positive. You can look at that like that is just a separate thing that they hit on. The other part of that is, well, every rookie receiver is basically a hit right now. George Pickens had a bonkers catch down the sideline. You just like Garrett Wilson looks like an immediate star in the Jets. Yeah. Like most of the guys are just performing well. So it's basically just been whoever you picked, you were probably going to do okay, no matter who you did. We now are 2 years of evidence of just like, this is kind of weird. If you're going to use the fourth pick on this player, I mean, you're starting out really out of the gate with Drake London making an impact and really targeting him and really prioritizing him in the offense. Kyle Pitts, I mean, it's just I wonder too where it's just, is it partly that they haven't won, that they're 0-2, and that some fans are just like, well, you got to target Kyle Pitts. It's like, you watch the game, it's not like the offense was the reason that, and not targeting Kyle Pitts was the reason they lost both those games. And I get what Arthur Smith is saying, is that like there is more to it. You can't just be like, all right, we got to make sure we get our 11 targets for Kyle Pitts to validate taking him number 4 overall. We have to make sure we hit this arbitrary number. There is the other side of like, well, I mean, young players and young receivers and young tight ends are making an immediate impact in this league and are being targeted a lot early all across the league. And if you're going to use that much draft capital on a tight end, you had to have thought that he was going to be someone who had a high record of production right out of the gate, that he was a special tight end at number 4 that you were going to do a lot of stuff with. And it really just means that maybe Arthur Smith wasn't the one who was like, we should take a tight end at number 4. Maybe it was a Terry Fontenot call, and he's like, I mean, if you want to, but my offense is not going to do it. I don't know. Like, it's still really early, but it is fair to be like, what are you doing with Kyle Pitts at this point? Like, that is a fair question to have.
I think it's fair to some extent for this season, but this is a guy who had 1,000 yards receiving last year as a rookie. I'm not ready to say anything positive, negative, whatever. He has a new quarterback. I mean, look, Drake London's getting a high volume, and I think that's fantastic. It's also a completely different position, so I don't even want to compare those two because it's not an apples-to-apples comparison. Because Kyle Pitts has other responsibilities that Drake London just doesn't have. That's just the nature of being a tight end in the National Football League. It is what it is. And I don't think that we are in position to compare him to other wide receivers, other tight ends like a Mark Andrews or a Travis Kelce, who are in their late 20s with established MVP quarterbacks. That's who we're comparing him to. And I think that's a disservice to both Marcus Mariota and this Falcons offense and Kyle Pitts himself. I mean, look, KhaDarel Hodge being second on this team in receiving is a little weird. I think
he's been good, though.
He's been good. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I think it will regress to the mean. And I think we're going to start seeing that stuff sooner rather than later. I don't think he's going to throw to Kyle Pitts just to throw to Kyle Pitts. But at the same time, it's like you have a guy who's a bona fide mismatch. He's a mismatch on everybody he plays, whether it's his size on a cornerback or his speed on a linebacker. Throw the ball up to him every now and then. So it's like, I think that's part of it, just the building relationship with Marcus Mariota. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it is they're not scheming him open. I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily the case because you're going to make plays for Kyle Pitts and you're going to make sure that he gets the ball. I just want to see him get the ball a little bit more, but I think that's going to start coming as the season goes along. I think the fact that you have it was just the type of team that you were playing. Maybe that had a role to do with it, but I'm not ready to hit the overreact button or even just the react button at this point in the season on much of anything like that as far as utilization is concerned. Because, I mean, you look elsewhere, look at the running back position, you look at Cordero Patterson, he's taken a very large role. I don't think he's going to maintain what he's doing right now for the rest of the season. I think I've said on this podcast numerous times, I think Tyler Algier is going to take a larger role.
BJ Baylor in the building. We got to get my guy BJ Baylor in the building. the Oregon State Beef. Got to get him in there to take over that Quiz Rogers role of yesteryear.
No, and look, I think that position is going to continue to unfold, and we're going to continue to see things as the season goes on. Because I don't think that this team is going to be judged on the win-loss record. I'll say it again. I think that this team. I hope not. Because if they're being judged on the win-loss percentage this year, I think they're in very rough shape. But this is the same roster that was ranked 32nd in the NFL. I think this is not the 32nd team in the NFL. I think it's probably closer to 24, 25. But they haven't shown it on the field yet. They've looked good at times, and they've looked downright miserable at others. I mean, Marcus Mariota is the perfect example. He looked like the number 2 overall pick at times, and then others, he looks like a journeyman quarterback. So I think the number one thing that this team really needs is just building up that consistency. I just don't think the talent's there yet, but that's not the point. I mean, the point is it's going to continue to progress and they're going to get better, I think, because I still believe in Arthur Smith.
I think Cordero is still here to stay. I don't know. He's just a full-time running back. I would expect him to continue to being one of the best running backs in this sport for the year. Like, I don't know how many years he's got on this. Like, it might just be 1 or 2 more years. This might just be it. I'm not expecting a drop-off from Cordero, and the run blocking's been great this year. It is interesting that you bring up the offensive line. Like, I wonder how much of it is just Marcus Mariota getting out because, like, Caleb McGarry is not graded well. Jake Matthews is graded out average. Elijah Wilkinson's been one of the worst guards in football. Chris Lindstrom's been a star. Like, that's been one where they've been okay there. Drew Dahlman's been bad too. You look at it and you're like, okay, this is weird. I don't really know why it's going the way it is, but it is. Bryan Edwards is out there getting cardio. He's not good.
Bad. He needs to be tough. You cannot get beat like he did against Jalen Ramsey in that play. There's just no excuse that you get bodied like that. When you have the game on the line, you got to go in there and do something. You know, that was irritated. That irritated the hell out of me. But it's like,
yeah, it'd be nice if Calvin Ridley was Patterson in this group.
Though. The thing I was saying with Cordero Patterson, it's like it's not that he's not going to be the dude on this offense. He's probably the most important player on this offense. I just don't think he's going to be a 200. I think I just did the math. He's on pace for 275 carries right now. He's not getting 275 carries. That's more what I'm saying. He's more of like 150, 200. So who is that next dude who's going to come in? I think it could be a combination of Marcus Mariota if he stays healthy and Tyler Algier. That's all I was saying there. But yeah, I don't know.
We'll see.
Frustrating.
I mean, is it a positive sign though, the way they're losing? Like, is there a way to spin this of like, there's a fight. They go to Los Angeles, they get down in a big hole, and they fight all the way back just to lose. They are up on a New Orleans team that we're now just like, I don't know what to do with New Orleans at this point. And like the defense is legit with New Orleans, but their offense. So like, I think I had so the Falcons are 12th in offensive DVOA. That is the best in the NFC South to this point. Right now, the Colts, who we talked about with Matt Ryan, 31st in offensive DVOA. The Bucs, who have struggled mightily with their offense, they're 27th. New Orleans is 25th. Carolina's 23rd. It's really weird, but I mean, the offense has not been the problem with the Falcons. Like, they fought hard, and I mean, they're able to move the ball. They have weapons. They have guys. It's just not complete. Like, that's just something you jot down. It's just like they're not complete. The Bryan Edwards spot, the backup to relieve Cordero Patterson, the quarterback spot, obviously, more depth just in general at the receiver spot. They're just not all the way complete, but they have enough pieces where I think this scheme and this system is working with lesser talent. And I kind of think they've actually kind of played above their heads a little bit. But we also may have learned the Rams just might not be that good. The Rams might be a couple injuries away from being a really, really bad football team because they're just so top heavy that, like, I don't know. I don't know what to make of the Falcons. I just know they're going to lose a lot of football games, but I do think it is something that they're coming back on the road and making a game of it, even if it was excruciating the way they lost this game once again.
Oh, yeah. No, I have major positives to take from it. I mean, let me just put this out here. There's no such thing as moral victories in the NFL or professional sports in general. There's just no such thing. But to some extent, it's like there's something that you can take from every game. And what I'm taking is that this team is greater than the sum of its parts. And I think that's kind of what you were saying there just a second ago. Where do they rank in the DVOA on defense?
They are 24th.
Okay, so that's progress. That's progress. I mean, for a young defense, that's
Taquan Graham's good. There's a little bit of a pass rush there. I mean,
they're on pace
linebackers have been fine.
They're on pace for 40 sacks.
Yeah, that's what I know.
You say that, I'm taking that to the bank. I'm sorry, I'm cashing that check. I'm like going.
The pass rush being good is weird.
See, but that's the thing. It's like, look, if you told me that we were going to have an above average offense and a right around average defense, check. I'll take that. No question. I don't care if we're 0-2. We'll fool around and fall backwards into a win or two. I don't care about that. Show improvement from last year. This is not a Super Bowl team. So Go and find out where your holes are and then go plug those holes. And I think that's what they're doing right now because we're learning where those weaknesses are. We need that number 2 wide receiver. We need some more help at center. We need help at pass rush. We need help in certain places. I mean, just go find those spots and you need a new quarterback. Like that's just like Marcus Mariota's fine. He's fine. He's not going to be a playoff quarterback. So you go answer those questions and just find out where those questions are and then go get them answered. It sounds easy, but that's kind of what the beauty of this season is, because I think everybody's fully on board with the fact that this is not a championship level team. I think or even just a playoff team. So that's one of the beauties of being in this situation rather than like, say, look where the Titans are. They're another 0-2 team, but they're not in the luxury of saying, hey, well, we have another year where we can figure all of these things out. So I don't know. I think the Falcons are in a fine place. I'm not disheartened by what I saw. I got frustrated with what I've seen the last 2 weeks, just as a fan. But as somebody who's like, see, if you look at the big picture, there's a lot to get excited about for the Atlanta Falcons.
I think so. I think in the last thing in the Pitts thing, this is all that Arthur Smith needs to look at. And like, you have to understand, number 1 in offensive DVOA for tight ends, Travis Kelce, Dallas Goedert, Mark Andrews, Darren Waller, and Gerald Everett. Those are all high profile, high acquisitions, whether through free agency or in the draft. Like, the point is, if you get a unicorn like that at that position, then most teams, especially the good ones, end up targeting that person
Who's
a
throwing
bunch.
the football to all 4 of those guys?
I mean, you got Jalen Hurts. It's not like Jalen Hurts has had a great start of the year. You have Lamar Jackson, and you have Derek Carr. You've got Justin Herbert. You got Patrick Mahomes. I get that part of it.
All of those
Tua
are top
with
16 quarterbacks. Almost all of those are top 16 quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Mariota would be lucky to be top 25. So I'm not saying it's all Marcus Mariota's fault. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying
has he talked about it at all?
Who, Marcus?
Yeah, they asked him directly.
I haven't seen a quote. I can look for one. I don't know.
I haven't heard him say anything.
They wouldn't have asked him. That's an interesting question that they would have asked him.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a starting quarterback, you probably are going to get asked those questions. So I'll take a look. I'll look and see if I can find anything. I guess we can figure that out offline. But
Mariota has not been the problem though. Like, Mariota's been fine. Like, if he plays like he has the last 2 weeks, then like I think you have to play him the whole year.
Oh, you have to play him. He's playing well enough that you have to play him. Saying he hasn't been the problem, he's been the problem a few times. Look, I think they lost the Saints game. At the end of the game, they lost the game because of Marcus Mariota. It was his fault. I blame him for that game.
Yeah. But also, I blame the defense not getting a stop. Yeah.
Well, he has the fumble in the red zone because his quote after the game, he says, "Oh, I didn't realize that, or I didn't realize where we were on the fault on the where on the line of where the line to game."
That was not great.
He thought he was still going for a first down. That's why he fumbled. And it's like, dude, you're a 5-year veteran in the National Football. You have to know where the line to gain is and go down.
But then he also fell down on a 4th and inches. And
no, but you fumbled the snap on 3rd and 1. What are you doing? It just blows my mind. So you can't do those two things. And then his quotes after the game. So the first one, he says he didn't know where the line to gain was.
Yeah,
that's why he fumbled the football. The other one, he saw the matchup that they wanted and he got excited. He got too excited and fumbled the snap. It's like, dude, that's a guy who just doesn't have composure. So no, I blame him completely for those losses. Not completely. I put a lot of blame on the shoulders of the quarterback, which generally speaking, the quarterback's going to shoulder a lot of blame. But those two quotes really personify the frustrations that I've had with Marcus Mariota specifically. But the way he's played well enough that, and I can mark a lot of those New Orleans things up to rust and things like that. But he's played well enough that he has to be your starter. He hasn't done anything that's so mind-numbing that you have to put in Desmond Ridder. So, which is pretty much what I expected from Marcus Mariota, barring an injury. He's middle of the pack to back of the pack as far as production is concerned. He's been fine.
And he's getting the ball to Drake London. They have a connection, clearly. Like, those two, they have a familiarity, and they're
the West Coast, man.
Yeah, the West Coast offense. I mean, Drake London, I don't know.
No, I'm saying you have Oregon versus in US.
Yeah, I know. And
Alliance, I guess.
I wonder too, like, do you see the comparisons already starting a little bit with people? Because like Falcons obviously drafted Julio. and this all-time great. Like, do you see any similarities with the two of them? Do you see anything
To
that they have
Drake
in
London
common? Drake London and Julio.
Well, yeah, they're big-bodied receivers who have
Yeah.
very wide catch radiuses, and you throw it to them, and then they're a vacuum cleaner, and they suck it in. I'm not going to say that they're necessarily they're not the same player.
Mm.
Julio is more of a freak. It's just like physically, just because he's significantly faster than Drake London. I think he ran a 4.2, 4.3 40 on a broken foot. Speaking of broken feet,
It's true.
he ran 4.3 40 on a broken foot, and that's incredible. So Drake London couldn't do that completely healthy. Like, just is what it is. And that's just Julio. And I don't think it's necessarily fair to compare anybody to Julio Jones or like a Calvin Johnson or any of those other physical freaks. But Drake London's a big-bodied receiver, and he's very versatile. I think he shares that with Julio Jones. Julio Jones could do a lot of different things. He can run every route in the route tree, and I think Drake London's kind of like that. He just doesn't have that top-end speed that Julio does.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too with that foot fracture, by the way, same foot that he ended up being missed for the remainder of the 2013 season. I like that.
Yeah.
I was like, I think that had to be the same foot, and that's what has me freaked out. Garrett, is if you break it once, you're significantly more likely to break it again. It's terrifying. I don't know how the run stuff is going to work going forward.
I don't know. I think I'm not panicking about anything like that though. I think he's in good shape as far as like trainers and everything else. So I haven't heard anything to really freak me out yet. So I'm gonna hold out hope.
When you look up to this week against the Seahawks, what about this matchup excites you the most, and how do you think this weekend goes? Because I think the Falcons win this game. I think this is one of their wins.
I think that the Seahawks played their Super Bowl week 1, and now that the Russ bus has completely left the building, I think it's going to be hard for them to get up for this game. And I think that the Falcons really want to leave this game with a win. So I would actually, I'm on the sideline of being surprised if the Falcons lose this game. I think they've been they can ride the wave of last week, staying out there on the West Coast, and just continuing the progression from last week. If they do that, which I think they can, then I think they win this game. The noise is always going to be a factor. The 12th man always shows up over there in Seattle, but I don't think it's going to be that big of an impact on this game necessarily, because that's a bad Seahawks team. And you have DK Metcalf, Lockett. You have these guys on the outside who are going to push our cornerbacks, but I think they'll be fine for the most part. There's really nothing that gets me super excited about this matchup, I wouldn't say, but outside of the fact that I think that the Falcons could win this football game, because they're finally playing a team that's equally as not talented as they are, but I think they are. I think that they can get. I think they have the mismatch, so I think they can win this football game, just by virtue of the Seahawks not being able to get up for the game.
What is your favorite matchup to watch in the Seahawks game?
I want to see DK Metcalf and AJ Terrell. That's one thing that I'm really interested to see.
Someone else who has not graded well out of the gate, AJ Terrell.
He hasn't played that well. I don't think I'm not ready to hit the panic button on him either, because he's played against 2 all-pro wide receivers in his first 2 weeks. 2 guys who hold NFL records in their first 2 weeks. People forgot that Michael Thomas existed for some reason, but he is the NFL record holder for receptions in a season, and everyone just seemed to forget that. But look, he faced those 2 guys, and he's got another big test this week with DK Metcalf, and I want to see how he responds. And he's, like you said, he's kind of struggled this year. I think he can continue to turn around and be that guy who can be an island. But look, with Lockett on the other side, you're really not going to have a lot of luxury to really have a lot of safety help. So I don't think Geno's necessarily the guy who's going to push you all that much, but still, having a big-bodied wide receiver like DK Metcalf is going to be very difficult to defend, and I think we're going to learn a little bit more about AJ Terrell this weekend, and I'm excited to see that.
What do you think the Falcons do best against the Seahawks? What gives you the best rationale? Which matchup do you think the Falcons will be able to exploit the most?
I think the rushing attack is going to have a little bit of success this week. And where do the Seahawks rank officially in the DVOA and defense?
Let me pull that back up. Where did that go? They are. I know they're in the back half. They are number 25, right
25.
about literally right behind the Falcons.
Okay, so that's pretty much where I expected them to be. I mean, you look at the 49ers. The 49ers found a little bit of success with backup running backs.
They are ninth in rush DVOA, by the way.
Yeah, but
in
I think,
defensive view. Yeah,
but that's something the 49ers
30th in
are gonna have a
pass.
little bit more success. And I think that if the Falcons can potentially get the rushing attack going, I think then that's really going to do something good for him. Because I mean, that's what Arthur Smith, that's his MO. Like, it's something he's always wanted to do. He wants to establish the run and run the ball effectively. And I think that the Seahawks rushing defense has actually been a little bit better than I expected it. I didn't think it was going to be that high. But Javonte Williams and what's his face? Melvin Gordon, they kind of struggled to get that rushing attack going. I don't know if that was just a little bit more to do with Russell Wilson's inability to really get going at home. I think he had that mental hurdle. That's a tough first game for a guy who's like as emotional as Russell Wilson is. So I kind of factor a lot of that into there, just the emotions of Russell Wilson. But look, Jeff Wilson was able to find a little bit of success, 4.7 yards per carry last week. I think that Cordero Patterson can probably come in and make an impact on this game. So I really want to see that from the offense. And Marcus Mariota, how does he deal with that noise early in the game? Is he fold under that pressure? I don't think he will. I hope he doesn't. But look, I think this is going to be an interesting game, at least for Falcons fans, but probably nobody outside of Seattle or Atlanta are really going to care about this one.
Yeah, the new means for Football Outsiders too is 6.7 wins for the Falcons this year.
That's over what it was.
It's true.
I'll take that. That means the team's outperforming its talent, and that's a good sign. That's a good sign. So, I mean, it's right around where I pegged. I pegged this team as like a 5-win team. And looking at it now, I think they can pull a 6th out. But this is one of those games that I expect the team to win. And it's like, look, I mean, if you're the better football team, which I'm not going to say that they're a better coach team than a Pete Carroll offense or a Pete Carroll team, but you come in and I think you have a chance to win this football game, and you are finally on that same level playing field talent wise, and you got to show it, and you got to come out of here with a win, because you're not going to get those opportunities. Don't come around very often for a talent deprived Atlanta Falcons team.
No one's gonna be watching this game on Sunday. I don't even think Seahawks and Falcons fans really want to watch this game on Sunday.
What are the other 4 o'clocks? That's the question. Cowboys probably playing. Who cares?
Cooper Rush. Yeah, that's a good question. Are we getting the first non-Joe Buck, Troy Aikman Fox game for my guy Greg Olson, old coworker here at Blue Wire? Is it the Greg Olson Burkhart game? I don't know. Probably not. There's no way we get the 4 o'clock version of them. It's gonna be like Vilma again.
As long as we don't have Jonathan Vilma again. I swear we have Jonathan.
I feel like it's going to be Vilma again.
We have Vilma every single solitary.
Need my guy Charles Davis.
Oh, no. It's Packers, Bucks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Might be a better game.
Packers, Bucks, Rams, Cardinals, and Jags, Chargers. Those are your other options. Falcons, Seahawks. I know what I'll be watching.
Yeah.
All of them. So
there you go. All of them. Are you like, how does that work for you?
Oh, it's Sunday Ticket, man. What are you talking about?
No, I get that. But like,
and Sunday Ticket.
But like, how do you pay attention to what you need to pay attention to? How are you focused and knowing what you're seeing?
I mean, I have Falcons on the bottom screen.
Okay.
Falcons always get the major screen. They always do. Just because I have to.
Its own screen, you mean? So it's got its own. It's got its
own screen. So it's like, okay. But I roll through commercial breaks and everything for them. The other ones I put on the top where it's like all of the little different ones, or I just run through Sunday Ticket if I'm feeling bored.
There you go.
Yeah, man.
Well, we'll see ultimately what happens, but it's gonna be a fun weekend. Vols, Gators.
Hawks Media Day today too.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot. I mean, outside of Nate saying he like went to Oklahoma, and Trey has some ideas on how to fix the offense and do stuff with him and DeJounte, and I mean that's cool. Did you have any main takeaways? I didn't. That was really all. The only thing I jotted down was from that.
I didn't have any takeaways at all.
Here's one thing. We have one takeaway. Bojan Bogdanovic is still not healthy. Bogdan is just never gonna be healthy. Like them just saying he's not 100%, but they expect him to be 100%.
Well, yes, sure. They didn't expect him to be healthy for this. He had the procedure.
Yeah, I just don't think he's ever gonna feel 100%. That man has had more injuries. Like I don't know. Hey, I would just assume Bogey is never 100%.
Well, good thing he's gonna be the 6th man this year.
I'm a bogey defender, a bogey guy.
I love Bogey.
I just don't think he's ever gonna. You're never gonna hear on the port. Bogey feels amazing. Like Bogey is 100%. Like we're never gonna have that. So if you're waiting for that, folks,
Well,
that's
that's the
probably
news
not.
that you always heard about Julio Jones every year. He comes
Yeah.
in, he feels better than ever. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Okay. Yeah, you say that every
He's
year.
limping a little bit. Like he's feeling. I mean, it's just. I don't know.
He says that until he runs a go route and comes back limping because he blew out his hamstring again.
Yeah. And then I don't know. We're gonna have to see what the Braves do to get off this Matt Olson contract this winter. We'll have to see.
Whoa!
What the odds?
Ouch. Okay. Damn.
Whew.
I actually looked at it. I looked at his stats. If you look at his seasons, it's like a trend. There's like a legitimate trend where he goes up, down, up, down, up.
Yeah.
And this is just the down after the up. So that means next year he's going to get for 45 home runs and have a 265, 270 average or something like that.
I'm not worried. I will just say that
It'll
it's
be
like
fine. He's also 10 errors at first base, which has been weird.
Yeah. I mean, 112 WRC plus, above average. He's just been a bad slub. Like he'll be fine. 28 dingers this year. He's just not Freddie. Like he's fine.
No, he's not Mr. Consistency.
Yeah.
Freddie Freeman. I mean,
he might be more Adam LaRoche, Atlanta Brave. There's some Adam LaRoche to him to me.
I see that. Even with his approach too. His batting stance is almost Adam, except he's out and Adam LaRoche is up. But outside of that, that's a decent. That's a decent one. It's just the thing is you're not paying him to be Adam LaRoche. You're paying him to be Freddie Freeman. That's the problem.
Yeah, and you're not getting that though. It turns out there aren't many Freddie Freemans out there.
Oh, shocker.
Yeah.
No, everyone's. Yeah, all the Braves fans who were happy to see Freddie go blew my mind. I don't think that there are that many of them. I think it's just like a vocal minority of people. But I don't know. If Freddie wanted to be a Brave, he'd be a Brave. And I'm not no holds barred. I don't.
There you go.
I mean, it is what it is.
Garrett Chapman. Do millennials this weekend?
Next weekend.
We
were going to be this weekend, but we had a college football game that we have to cover at the studio. So.
Which one?
I don't know. I'm not covering it. It's just going in my time slot, but it's okay.
Oh
well.
There you go. Garrett Chapman at GChap ATL. Max Markovich, we miss you. You're somewhere around the country. Where
Colorado,
did you say he was?
I think
Colorado or something like that. He's in the Alamo. He's doing something. He's out there in the wilderness. Doing what people do in Colorado.
San Andreas Fault.
Yeah, there you go.
Climbing Mount Kilimanjaro.
Exactly. All of those things. Max, we'll get you next week. Garrett, thank you as always, my friend. And I will talk to you very soon.